We are back with more NBA playoff coverage, and in this one, I will be covering all the Game 2 action in the conference semifinals. So, to get things started out, we have the Cavs and Pacers on Tuesday once again. And obviously, the Cavs are at least trying to protect home court by getting at least a game in Cleveland, while the Pacers had a tremendous chance to win both games in Cleveland and then head back to Indiana for game 3 with a 2-0 lead advantage in the series, which would be pretty interesting. The Cavs seem to have understood what was at stake to get things started out, because they would go on a tremendous run and have a 32-15 lead by the end of the first quarter. Now, this was marked by a few things. To start out, they did a much better job of staying attracted to Pacers shooters in this one, especially after the tear that the team went on as a whole in the last game. They were looking for those shots early and often, and they simply were not falling down. Again, a lot of that can be chalked up to them missing just point-blank range three-point makes, but at the same time, the defense, from what I saw, was just much better overall when it came to accounting for that. Not to mention as well, the Pacers' hot start last game was fueled by the fact that Tyrese Halliburton had 7 first quarter points on perfect shooting off the rip in that game. They did not let him get off to as hot of a start here. You know, he did make his very first shot, which ended up opening up the scoring for the ball game. But the game plan for them was to get the ball out of his hands as much as possible. Not even in terms of being able to facilitate. Just get the ball out of his hands because he's that much of a damn threat. And so they did that. Whether it was Max Strus or Sam Merrill guarding him, like, they were giving him, not necessarily to compare the two, but they were giving him the Stephen Curry treatment. Every single time he was coming up the court, they were getting a body on him. When he was moving off ball, they were sticking with him. They were hand checking a little bit, grabbing him as much as they could, making it hard for him to break free off different screen patterns and things of that nature. He just was not getting the ball. And in turn, the Pacers did sink themselves early because they would give Andrew Nembhard the ball in situations like this. And I guess over the course of the game, a person that is usually efficient when it comes to assist-to-turnover ratio had a rough time figuring out their defense because he ended up committing 8 turnovers just by himself. And the team as a whole did just give up some easy possessions with just very questionable lapses in judgment. The Cavs offense also just heated up completely. And this was all dictated by Donovan Mitchell, as pretty much the entire game would be for the Cavs. Now, granted, they were without Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, and DeAndre Hunter in this one, all due to injury. So it was certainly going to be a tougher task for them. But Donovan Mitchell took it upon himself to put it all on his shoulders. Literally and figuratively. I mean, no, this game didn't necessarily see him shoot the best from 3 still. He only made like 1. But when it was him and another player trying to guard him one-on-one, he just spammed the downhill slashing to the rim time and time again. And it worked because no defender could stop him when it came to him slashing from the rim. Over the course of this 26-6 run, and then throughout most of the game, even when they tried to get a body on him, a second person to creep in and try to get a contest at the rim, bruh, his touch around there, balanced with the sheer amount of will to just get the ball in the bucket, just caught them off guard. He was drawing fouls left and right, getting people in foul trouble. He was posterizing people over the course of the entire game. Like, there was a sequence in the first quarter. They had Ben Shepherd, poor Ben Shepherd, guarding Donovan Mitchell, and he cooked the shit out of him. He drew a foul on him. Could have been an and one. He just missed the free throw. But it's like shit like that was just a thing for Donovan Mitchell the entire time. And with the amount of attention gravitated towards him simply by forcing the ball into the paint, it did open up room for some shooters, namely Max Strus. Sam Merrill got a few shots to go as well, but Max Strus was definitely the secondary guy for them in this ball game, at least when it came to outside spacing. He just couldn't miss. And that would become very important later on. Also, you got to credit Jarrett Allen as well. Like, his presence alone took the pressure off, and he was able to get himself some easy opportunities for lobs in just routine layups at the rim. It's par for the course for a person that is one of the most efficient players in the league from field goal percentage this season. The one thing that kept the Pacers honest, though, Aaron Nesmith in the second quarter did start to pile it on a little bit in his own way, while other players for the Pacers are struggling. And also, Benedict Matherin's contributions off the bench during this time were also important, because the Cavs really could have put this thing away. I mean, they went up by as much as 20, but every single time it felt like the Cavs had some sort of positive play, Benedict Mathurin was getting himself involved in some kind of response. And Miles Turner would also, as the Pacers would start to mount a few defensive stops, his shot making was also very much needed for them, and it paid off as they would continue to chip away at the lead. The Cavs continued to try to ramp up the tempo, but for what the situation was earlier on, for you to have a 17-point margin of deficit in the first quarter and then go down by as much as 20, to be down just 61-50 at halftime isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world if you are the Pacers. So it was just a matter of getting it together on defense, really. It felt like their three-point shooting was coming around just a little bit. And also, again, Tyrese Halliburton only had, I think 4 or 6 points at this time. So the game plan was also to get him involved a little bit more as well. And though, again, the Cavs would not relent in that whatsoever, as Donovan Mitchell continued to terrorize this team single-handedly, as the Cavs would once more just go up by 20 points again, with Max Strus even getting a volley pass from Dean Wade and skying up for a pretty athletic dunk that I didn't really expect from him whatsoever. But he was just having that kind of ball game on both sides of the basketball. Aaron Nesmith and Obi Toppin would immediately have responses in their bag. And once more, although Sam Merrill would try and get this back up to speed for the Cavs, here comes Benedict Mathurin with back-to-back possessions with layups. Just getting that offense in a rhythm once more, drawing a foul, and getting 3 easy free throw attempts, 4 makes, to cut the lead down to 12. Then he continues to pour it on at the end of this third quarter, aided by more help from Tyrese Halliburton in terms of assisting, with Aaron Nesmith getting a pretty timely 3-point bucket just before the end of the third quarter. giving the Pacers a little bit of momentum, but obviously they were going to have a tremendous amount of work to do. Their defense, again, like they were chipping away at it. They would get this lead down to 8 and then 6 with a Benedict Mathurin offensive rebound and putback for a dunk. But again, their defense was just collapsing all over because they couldn't account for Donovan Mitchell. So they wanted to send as much pressure as possible, but that left too many open shooters at just inopportune moments. And you have Max Strus, Isaac Okoro making them pay down the stretch. Now things would get pretty interesting here, as though the Pacers were actually storming back, the Cavs were up by as much as 7 after a Donovan Mitchell free throw make with around 2 minutes and 31 seconds left to go. And this foul, actually, I have to point out, was just really fucking weird because he obviously was just on one the entire game, and so I guess you have to resort to any tactic you can to stop him. Aaron Nesmith, for whatever reason, decided to try to hurdle him and kicked him in his face accidentally, and that was the drawn foul there. I don't necessarily know what Nesmith was getting at, but I guess that's a way to try and stop him. And I mean, as comical as that is, that was reality for Donovan Mitchell in this game. Because like I said, literally and figuratively, he was putting everything on his shoulders. As capable as he truly is of being able to have these monstrous playoff games, we know about his consecutive streak with 30-point series, 30-point games and series openers. We know about that. We know about the multiple 50-point games that he's had over the course of a few playoff runs now. We get that. But this game specifically, even though he pulled it off, man, it came at a cost because it took so much energy. He was drawing so much contact and taking hit after hit after hit. Even if they weren't all as crazy as that failed hurdle attempt, to have to take that on over the course of an entire ball game as it just continues to pile on, that's eventually going to cause a lot of fatigue. That's going to take it zapped him damn near completely. So the Pacers would end up getting within 5 once more before drawing another foul on Donovan Mitchell, who would miss the second one and then get the rebound prior to getting blocked by Miles Turner. Then you would have Tyrese Halliburton finally activate a little bit of scoring after having a slow start. Again, not a matter of efficiency. He was shooting well, but he just was not getting the looks at all. He found one here to exploit and would bring the lead down to 4. This is the epitome right here. I mean, Donovan Mitchell had 2 or 3 defenders watching him as they would get the ball back. And as he's trying to make a move, they're doing their absolute best to trap him. It felt to me like he couldn't necessarily get out of that in that moment, simply because he just did not have enough firepower anymore to make it happen. But hey, with that amount of attention, Max Strus at the right time rotated over to the right wing of the court, and Donovan Mitchell somehow found a way to get the ball out, got Strus right there for an open 3, and he cashed it, putting the lead up to 7 and potentially giving the Cavs a victory. But of course, nothing can truly be certain in playoff basketball. And over the next minute and 6 seconds, a bundle of craziness would take place. You would have Tyrese Halliburton once more just get in the easy two-pointer. As granted, the Cavs are more willing to give up those at this moment. You don't want to give up the 3 balls, so you're going to let them slide. They were playing the foul game as well, the Pacers, as Donovan Mitchell would get to the free throw line once again. Par for the course, as he would have, I think, 21 free throw attempts on the night. He would make these 2 and bring the lead back up to 7. So now the Pacers would have just 48 seconds to work with. The Cavs were also willing to foul, and Pascal Siakam would end up missing both. But in comes Aaron Nesmith, who is already having a tremendous game. He crashes in from the three-point line, with Donovan Mitchell trailing him and Jarrett Allen also trying to contest this potential rebound. He gets a monster fucking putback dunk on the both of them. And both of them, Nesmith and Mitchell, fall to the ground in pretty awkward manners. Especially Donovan Mitchell. Like, his entire back just seems to get put out of place in that moment, and he was down for a pretty good period of time. Because again, your body is taking a beating like that to the point where you can barely get your breaths in at that point. It was just insane to see. And again, it would have helped tremendously if you had those guys out there. It shows you just what Donovan Mitchell is made of. But, bruh, you literally everything on the line just to win this game. Pacers were willing to be on the same thing, though. And weirdly enough, again, Donovan Mitchell, this was a bad offensive foul by him. But again, I look at that is a sign of just a little bit of desperation, because something has to give at some point. You've been doing all you can. You're just trying to fight that kind of condition as best as you can to overcome it for just one more sequence. But Aaron Nesmith got in the way of his elbow and drew the foul. They would review it, and it would stand, giving the Pacers another chance at it. Now, Jarrett Allen would end up blocking this 2-point attempt from Tyrese Halliburton, but they would get the offensive rebound, and then Pascal Siakam would make a bucket to bring it within 3. Now, they had to call a timeout because of the fact that they couldn't get the inbound in from full court. So you would have Max Strus inbounded past half court, and it was just a terrible pass, if I do say so myself. Like, yes, Kenny Atkinson's usage of timeouts and things of that nature can be debated. You could make this out to be a coaching gaffe on his part, but at the same time, I look at this sequence right here as truly important, because all you have to do at that point is just get the ball in to anyone. Like, even if you, for example, had to just pass it to Jarrett Allen and he gets fouled, so be it. You don't want to give them a free shot to just do whatever they wish. You don't want to give them that momentum. And he just put it in such a bad spot to where Andrew Nembhard was able to jump the pass perfectly and get an interception. Also, why are we giving the ball to Ty Jerome in this moment? Against the player in Andrew Nembhard, who is a solid defender through and through. Jerome, again, Strus and Allen were the main 2, I'm not going to say sidekicks, obviously, but those were the main 2 guys that stepped up for this Cavaliers team. We're looking at a player in Ty Jerome, and we're going to try to give it to him in the clutch when he had not done a lick all game long. Like, even if that was the call to get it to him because he can make free throws, you can still adjust the play on the fly. And you've got to be quick with it. So I do not think that is all coaching. But at least in terms of engineering a different play, sure, I suppose. That would give the Pacers yet another chance in what seemed unlikely just a few seconds ago. They were down by 7 with about 1:06 and then 48 seconds left in the ballgame, respectively. And now they have a chance to potentially tie this thing up. So Tyrese Halliburton would end up getting fouled, naturally. He would make the first one, and then he just straight up missed the second one. But miraculously, with the help from Miles Turner, he would get the rebound. He kind of stumbles a little bit as he gets back out to the three-point line. And then he takes on none other than Ty Jerome. He had been just bottled up to an extent all game long. And he actually had a pretty good showing in the fourth quarter. I mean, a good amount of his buckets came late. But none of that would necessarily matter if he could come through in this moment down by 2 to potentially tie or win the ball game. He takes him on, plays around with a few crossovers and such, and then gets him with a mean step back, rises up at the top of the key as the shot clock and the game clock continue to wind down. And with a single second left, he hits the three-pointer to potentially win the game, but ultimately take the lead here. The Cavs, at that point, without any timeout, don't really have much else they can do. They throw up something, and it really doesn't even get close to the rim. And just like that, man, the Pacers, in one of the wildest fashions imaginable, steal both games in Cleveland and now head to Indiana, where they will take on the Cavs again tonight and could potentially go up 3-0. That is insane. Again, you would hope that all of these Cavs players get healthy, because again, this still has the potential to be a very great series, and it's already provided that so far. But you would think that the Cavs could potentially even it up if they are healthy once again. Only time will tell. Now, as for the numbers here, again, Halliburton had 11 fourth quarter points and finished with 9 rebounds and 4 assists with a block on 7 of 11 shooting, making both of his threes. Nembhard was the main facilitator, but you really have to contribute that overall success to the team. He had some great passes, but by himself, it was a little bit of a wild card, to be honest. I mean, he had 13 points, 7 rebounds, and 13 assists with 2 steals. Pretty solid overall, but to combine that with 8 turnovers, again, by yourself, when no one on the team had more than 3, which was TJ McConnell, in just 14 minutes of play. So, that could certainly be improved, but he did make the right play at the right time, which engineered that improbable sequence from Halliburton in the first place. Miles Turner and Aaron Nesmith had great games, as I mentioned. They both had 23 points. And Miles Turner even added 8 rebounds as well. Both of them shooting great from the field. Benedict Mathurin, as I mentioned, nice contributions off the bench. 19 points in 20 minutes on 6 of 10 shooting with a 3. As for the Cavs, man, Donovan Mitchell, 48, 9 assists, 5 rebounds, 4 steals, and a block on 15 of 30 shooting. He also had 17 makes at the free throw line on 21 attempts. Just a pure bucket getter in this game. And you still don't come out on the winning end. It's tough. And again, there could be concerns as to how they might decide to play him next game, because for that kind of stuff to be lingering when it comes to the condition that he was in at the end of the game and just how gassed he was. I can't imagine that they would continue to try to give him a shit ton of minutes. I can't imagine that. Now, I guess I can see real quick. He's probably listed as healthy, but I just do not see him playing that much. Okay, hold on, let me see. Yeah, even he said immediately after the game that he was banged up, and we could tell that. So again, they're gonna have to tread these waters carefully, especially if you still don't get back Darius Garland and Evan Mobley. You've gotta try to conserve him just a little bit, because to expect him to replicate that again, if he's feeling anything less than 100%, it's kind of self-sabotage at that point. I'm not going to lie. Jarrett Allen would have 22 points, 12 rebounds, and 3 assists with 3 blocks on 7 of 9 shooting, and Max Strus would have 23 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists on 8 of 18 shooting. Sam Merrill even had 14 off the bench. But like I said, they gave Ty Jerome these minutes, and he had just 2 points on 1 of 14 shooting. So again, yes, even though he provides a great free throw percentage in getting the ball to him, forcing the Pacers to foul him in that moment probably would have been ideal. Do you really trust him in the post against a great defender at his position in Andrew Nembhard in that moment anyways? Obviously, the pass was off. So, we never really got the chance to see that come through, but maybe they should have stayed away from that in the first place. Like, the Cavs had it, man. It's as simple as that. And again, as I stated, when the Pacers were able to win against the Bucks late in overtime to take the series there is literally so much that has to line up perfectly for a team to be able to pull that off. And they got that shit done. No question about it. Moving on to the Knicks Celtics. Honestly, the Celtics were in the same position as the Cavs, to where you think you have it. You think you're in the clear. And honestly, it seemed that way throughout most of this game. They got out to a blistering start in the first quarter, despite continuing to shoot terribly from 3. And they were able to get themselves in a position where, once again, in consecutive ball games now, they would go up by as much as 20 by essentially nearing the end of the third quarter. While I do say that, there's a lot of circumstantial things that have to take place to engineer wild comebacks at the same time, we all know exactly why the Celtics ended up losing back-to-back ball games after being up by as much as 20 points. Again, it's not even about the fact that they now have missed the most combined 3-pointers in the first 2 games of any playoff series in NBA history, ever. It goes a lot deeper than that. There are so many little things that are consistently going wrong. Like, aside from the 3-pointers, I tell you, they can't generate offense outside of it. And I don't know what it is. In some cases, it just doesn't seem like they're willing to. Because why are we consistently settling for bad shots? Not even just three-pointers. We're taking so many contested shots at the rim. We're getting so many sequences with just errant play down the stretch when you have a lead to protect. You have to credit the Knicks defense for clamping down as they have continued to do during at least the first couple of games in this series. Like, you're just making the dumbest mistakes against this team. Bro, there was even a situation where Jason Tatum got a steal and threw an errant pass Jaylen Brown's way. It ended up being a turnover, and they laughed it off. This was directly after they took a 20-point lead. And honestly, if you get that to go, you could have probably just reinforced the momentum that you had, continued to expand on it. But you laugh it off as if you're not going to take the Knicks seriously. The second that shit happened, shit started to change completely. Like, they for whatever reason just underestimated the talent that they had. I mean, they did do a good job of accounting for Jalen Brunson. At a time, he had not done much of anything at all in this game. But Karl Anthony Towns and Josh Hart would continue to keep them honest. Karl Anthony Towns already had a double-double in this game, along with an 8-0 run earlier, so he was already a threat. But they allowed Josh Hart to just kill him. I mean, yes, usually, especially when it comes to leaving him open on the three-point line, if you have Josh Hart open like that, you're bound to just let him shoot it. But this was not the game for that, because he was deadly accurate from outside. And that forced the Celtics' hand to where they now had to change up their assignments just a little bit. That alone allowed them to catch fire, and not to mention Mitchell Robinson too. For a person that I don't necessarily consider the greatest of perimeter defenders out there, he was able to trap the Celtics in so many bad situations. Any ball handler you can think of for that team. And especially when it came to contesting shots out there. He's just too large and too long to just play around with. They really thought they were going to have a field day against him. And they got absolutely fucked up. And then also, especially when we get into the fourth quarter too, combination of things went absolutely terrible for them. I mean, yet again, they were able to continue to force pressure overall. Now, they did get lucky is Drew Holiday would actually get another bucket into Peyton Pritchard 3. And then you would think that the Celtics would continue to put it away as even Al Horford got some buckets. But then Mikal Bridges decided to show his two-way potential to the fullest extent. He would go off for 14 fourth quarter points after not even scoring in the ball game at all. And then again, neither team was necessarily shooting the ball well from three. But the Knicks, whether it was Mitchell Robinson, Josh Hart, or Karl Anthony Towns, they ate up the glass, especially in this fourth quarter. They were able to buy themselves so many extra possessions. And they ended up getting the Celtics defense to break down on a good amount of those to where open shots following that would ensue, and they were able to convert off of them. The lead just continued to trickle down for the Celtics, because after you would see that spurt from Mikal Bridges, now Jalen Brunson was becoming an issue. A person who, again, had like single-digit points on inefficient shooting for the longest time. Ended up doing what he does best at the right moment. There's a reason why he was voted the clutch player of the year this year. And that showed itself in the fourth quarter, late especially. Even with Josh Hart still doing what he did, you saw Karl-Anthony Towns also provide help on the glass, once more getting an and one on an offensive rebound attempt. Then Jalen Brunson would help them take the lead. Now, they would continue to expand on it as Jalen Brunson would once more get a good look with around 56 seconds left to bring it up to 3. The Celtics were fortunate enough to get Jason Tatum free throws, a good contest on a Jalen Brunson 3, and then a very open dunk for Jason Tatum with 18 seconds left. But they knew who the ball was going to come to on that ensuing Knicks possession. And Jalen Brunson decides to draw a foul. Drew Holiday falls for it. And Jalen Brunson gets 2 easy free throws to give the Knicks the 1-point lead. Again, multiple things on this play alone went horrible for the Celtics here. Like, the Knicks were playing great defense all around, but a better play could have been drawn up. Instead, they did not call a timeout early enough. Again, I get it. You're trying to ensure that you are the team with the final possession in the game. You don't even want to give the Knicks a chance to get the ball back. But at the same time, whether you take a timeout and draw it up, or whether you have the players call for a more optimal play in that moment, there had to be a better play design. Because everybody at that point is just standing around in their spots. Nobody was moving off the ball whatsoever. I mean, they figured that Jason Tatum would be the one to close out the game, but you're not even giving up proper spacing. And so you have everyone just collapsing in the paint and just sticking to their players as well. A very good defensive formation. It was pretty good execution as well, and a great play call from Tom Thibodeau to have that kind of all-encompassing coverage. Shout out to Mitchell Robinson holding it down as well on the outside. Jason Tatum seems to get the matchup he wants by taking on Mitchell Robinson, but Robinson does not let up any attempt at a potential step-back 3. The ability to just keep him guessing as a defender ultimately forced Jason Tatum inside. As Mitchell Robinson is watching him, as OG Anunoby is watching him as well, because he picks him up too. So he's going up, and he's looking to shoot it initially. And then at the last second, I suppose he saw something, and he tries to pass it out, but in comes Mikal Bridges from just behind him, sneaking in a block, a steal, whichever one works for you. And the game is done from there, with the Knicks coming back from another 20-point deficit to win a wild Game 2 in TD Garden, taking both games there and heading back to Madison Square Garden as well with a 2-0 advantage. Celtics just completely fucked it up. Again, I don't know necessarily what he was seeing at that point, but you wouldn't even have to put yourself in that position if you come up with a better game plan than that. Like, you could get a much better look, even if you are putting it on your back for this game, you could get a much better look than a fucking contested fadeaway jumper on the left side of the baseline. And then even if he passes it out there, what are the chances that the person he was looking for would be able to get up the shot in time? And you're also not accounting for the fact that they're probably rotating over and they will force up a terrible shot there too. It just was doomed from the start of that play. Now for the numbers, you would have Jalen Brunson put up 17 points with 7 assists on 6 of 19 shooting. Again, struggle game, but when they needed him in the clutch, he did exactly what he's done. Honestly, since he's been a player for the team. Karl-Anthony Towns would have 21 points and 17 rebounds. Tremendous game on the glass for him. And shot 9 of 16 from the field as well. Surprisingly, he didn't make a three, but that wasn't what the game called for in this one. Even though, obviously, he proclaims himself to be the best shooting big man ever. And you would love to see that continue to be proven on a game-to-game basis. But hey, if you can take it back to a more traditional route and help out your team in that way, that's ultimately going to count way more. So you have to respect that. Josh Hart would also give them tremendous work with 23 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists on 9 of 15 shooting with 3 threes. As for the Celtics, the goddamn Celtics. I'm primarily looking at Jason Tatum. Bro, another game with a double-double on 13 points and 14 rebounds. Also 5 assists and 3 steals with a block. But, dude, 5 of 19 shooting and 1 of 5 from 3. It was just bad. It was bad to watch. Jaylen Brown also didn't do that well either. 20 points, but on 8 of 23 shooting, with just 2 of 7 shooting from deep. Derek White, 20 points, but 6 of 17 shooting, with 3 of 11 shooting from deep. Peyton Pritchard had 9 off the bench, and Drew Holiday had 10. And again, when it counted, they gave up a damn 23-6 overall run. Because you're just not generating good enough looks in clutch moments. And then again, when all else continues to fail, instead of maybe trying to activate some work in the mid-range. Again, if you don't have a three-point shot to rely on at some points, sometimes your best three-point shot is a mid-range look every now and then. And even then, again, some of those looks, they just chucked those up. They weren't even necessarily producing them in a proper fashion. Instead of trying to overcome that, you just continue to fall back in love with the three. And now you have missed a combined 75 three-pointers in just the first 2 ball games. That's ridiculous, man. Shooting just 36.2% from the field overall and 25% from 3. Again, the Knicks were able to ultimately give themselves a few extra possessions and make the most out of those. But once more, in another situation where a team has the game and they just lose out on it completely because of just the most idiotic things. And the Knicks and Celtics in this series are fully healthy. So Boston has no excuse. At least with the Cavs, yes, the Cavs have a tremendous amount of depth. That's understood. But at least with them, you can say that a couple of their elite players, especially when you look at a player who has been an all-star before, and then a player in Evan Mobley who was an all-star last season and also got the DPOY. Well, yeah, all-star in the regular season and the DPOY this season as well. Those are valuable guys to the team that they're missing out on, and the Cavs definitely suffered as a result of that. That's fair to say. The Celtics have all their guys intact. And they're playing like dog shit right now. So again, like, yeah, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown can do that little bullshit at the tail end of just getting a 20-point lead. But if you're going to have that kind of mindset in that moment, even if, yeah, you are the reigning champions, it's like, damn, where's the sense of urgency at that point? You desperately needed to lean on that. And you desperately needed to understand that you had to protect the lead, and they failed at handling that assignment. So they promptly lost the game. All right. Moving on to the Nuggets and Thunder. Oh boy. Scary hours for the squad indeed. I mean, yes, it did help that they got at least one game in Oklahoma City. Apparently, since December of 2023, Thunder had not lost back-to-back games at home in the regular season or the postseason. So they were definitely going to try to get their lick back in this one. But even then, after going up by 7-9, the Thunder just like completely nuked the Nuggets. They nuked them. From what I tracked, they had a 50-23 overall run that continued to pile on because at that point, I just decided to not give a fuck and stop tracking the amount of points that were being accrued at this point. Because it was just overkill at this point. They were already done. Adelman continues as well to, and again, I guess in a situation like this, you have no choice because, to be honest, I mean, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was doing Shai Gilgeous-Alexander things. Chet Holmgren was certainly going to provide a good response in this game. After the way the last game ended, you knew he was going to come out on fire after that. Isaiah Hartenstein was getting up good shots at the rim, and the shooters on this team, the Isaiah Joes of the world, the Lucius Dorches of the world, the Cason Wallaces of the world, the Jalen Williams, both of them of the world were just hitting all game long, and the Nuggets couldn't do anything about it. Offensively as well, Nikola Jokic was going through literal fucking basketball hell, bro. He couldn't do anything. I mean, again, they had the constant rotation of players on him, and this time they were actually able to get great contests on him. They were getting extremely physical with him, making it hard for him on some possessions to even get the ball. So where you're putting it in other players' hands at that point, and they don't know what to do with it, especially when it came to Michael Porter Jr., and I'll get into that when I get into that. Jamal Murray was trying his hardest to make something happen. Aaron Gordon was also getting neutralized in a way. And again, that's a testament to the fact that the Thunder, bro, they were just everywhere. Everywhere. It even got to a point where I know, like, shit got so bad to where I had to end up just getting out because I was not even about to watch the rest of this game play out with it being an extreme blowout. Okay. Yeah, things got so bad at that point to where the Nuggets had been down to pretty much their final timeout or pair of timeouts at that point. And Jokic ended up fouling out of the ball game in a relatively short amount of time for his standards. This was a terrible all-around game for him. A terrible one. And especially when you look at it from a defensive lens. I mean, dude, they continued to hunt him, and he offered little resistance whatsoever. So it was just going to be easy pickings for them on multiple possessions in a row at that point. But yeah, Adelman, again, I say all that to say, it's like, dude, like, seriously? When is he going to understand just the finer nuances of time management? Because to consistently waste timeouts left and right like this will ultimately force situations like that to take place. Now, of course, for things to get as bad as they did here, again, that's the Thunder. Even though they're a youthful team, they recognized what was at stake, and they were just hungry to go out and get themselves a win. That's what this trickles down to. They wanted it more. You could tell. You could tell. I mean, literally, by the end of the first quarter, well, end of the first half, rather, they had the most points in any half of any single postseason game in NBA history for any team with 87. And that would also give them the most points in a single half of any single postseason game in their franchise history as well. They just could not be stopped from an efficiency standpoint, and the volume was also just high as well. To get into the numbers, again, Jokic, 17 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, a steal and a block, but 6 turnovers, and obviously fouled out in just 32 minutes. Even when you look at it this way, a good majority of those 17 points were just accrued in garbage time. There were only few sequences where they were really trying to make a run to storm back, and even then, with their lack of defensive intensity, those runs were very short-lived. It didn't end up mattering. Russell Westbrook would have 19 points on 5 of 11 shooting, but even that didn't mean much of anything. Jamal Murray had 14 points and 4 rebounds, but just had 9 shots. Aaron Gordon had 10 points on 3 of 12 shooting. Definitely a downturn from his earlier contributions in the postseason so far. Julian Strawther and Peyton Watson had 9. Michael Porter Jr., once more, again, I just don't understand when it comes to this man. 8 points, 5 rebounds, and a steal on 2 of 10 shooting, with 2 of 8 shooting from deep. A lot of the misses, especially earlier in the game, bro, they were routine. They were gimme layups, gimme shots. He got a rebound and managed to put up what looked to be a good shot near the restricted area. And it literally just goes in and out. It's insane. The Thunder, in winning 149 to 106. Yes, it was that bad. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander would have 34 points and 8 assists on 11 of 13 shooting. Hyper efficient game for him compared to what was going on with Jokic. Jalen Williams, Santa Clara Jalen Williams, had 17 points and 7 assists on 6 of 11 shooting. Chet Holmgren had 15 points on 8 shots with 11 rebounds, 2 assists, steals, and blocks, all without a single turnover. And he made all his free throws. Isaiah Hartenstein had 14 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists as well, especially with some of his passes earlier on, man. This is what he is able to provide with a team. And again, picking him up in the offseason, this is what the Thunder were counting on. And again, when he has been healthy, man, bruh, it's been like clockwork all season. Isaiah Joe also had 14 on perfect shooting off the bench. AJ Mitchell came in garbage time and had 10. Aaron Wiggins also had 10. Casey Wallace had 8. Dylan Jones had 4. Kenrich Williams had 4. Arkansas, Jalen Williams had a 3-point shot. And again, this is all with a worse game from Alex Caruso, who had just 2 points. But again, when you can demolish them as a team, bro, you don't even need Caruso to give you that again, because he's still going to provide you with enough defensive intensity to make his presence felt out there regardless. 56.2%, 44.4%, and 91.7% shooting splits for the Thunder in this one. It don't get much better than that. They had 34 points off turnovers, an advantage of 20, an advantage of 21 in transition offense, and an advantage of 24 in the paint. Through and through, Nuggets got their ass kicked. I would hope that motivates them to go back to Denver for this game tonight and get what could be a very crucial win in a game like this. You can't, at the very least, get your asses kicked like that again by this team. It just would not be acceptable. I'm not even going to lie to you, man. It would not. Nah. You can't go for that. You can't. Now, granted, me being a Warriors fan after watching the game last night, I don't know if I can say the same thing. I don't think I have the right to say much of anything, because the Timberwolves would get off to a much better start in this game. A much better start. They had a 29-15 lead by the end of the first quarter. And they had like a run to start out the game where they held the Warriors to 0 points in the very start. I figured as well, when watching the whole thing through, I figured that the Timberwolves would be able to shoot just a little bit better from 3, of course. They would be able to find their shot. I anticipated that because, not everybody's going to be the Celtics, okay? There are some teams that will be able to bounce back from terrible shooting nights like that. You can't always expect that to be replicated, and it's very hard to do so. Also, again, having just an 11-point quarter with 4 field goals on horrible shooting, that's also a lot to potentially replicate as well. But to avoid even the slightest element of that, they just started off the game winning. They never trailed. A wire-to-wire win for them. Through and through. Now, it doesn't help as well in the situation that not only did you have Jimmy Butler III and Draymond Green struggling in the earlier portion of the ball game, but you also have tensions flaring up, especially when it comes to Draymond Green, because he would get a flagrant foul or a technical foul after just whacking the shit out of Nas Reed. And this man was legitimately about to get himself out of the ball game. It got to a point where even fellow players are trying to calm him down. And he had to get benched because it was just getting so out of hand. And during that point, the Timberwolves were just able to continue to extend their run. Their defense was great as well, which is, it's not shocking to see that. They had been a great defense for a good majority of the season. And a lot of it had to do with on-ball pressure. The Warriors were able to still get in their sets, but once they did, it was on. So they were jumping different passes, as, again, I guess you have to credit them for watching the film and being able to see the play even before it truly happened. They were able to get multiple transition opportunities, which definitely benefited them as well. There were still times where they struggled to hit shots, but their ability to force turnovers in bunches really hurt the Warriors overall. And then in the same vein, Warriors were not able to get much of anything going from three themselves in this one. So a little bit of revenge was exacted their way, as they only shot a combined 9 of 32 from there. Now, granted, the one key takeaway from the Warriors here is how Jonathan Kuminga played in this game. He played excellent. And some of his shot making along with Trace Jackson Davis as well, would eventually lead to a sequence where the Warriors were able to open up the third quarter on a very small run. I mean, they would get the game within 7 after a Buddy Hield 3. But once more, though that would be followed up immediately on the next possession with good defense, they just continue to get themselves in trouble. I mean, Jimmy Butler III, for a veteran player, this specific turnover, I think, he was trying to, throw the ball down, and he, held it and jumped up or some shit for, a travel in the backcourt. Pretty mindless turnover for an established veteran, especially when it comes to playoff basketball. Just can't have that. And then after Jonathan Kuminga would make a 3 of his own, the only one on the night, then shit just hit the fan. I mean, the Timberwolves got up by as much as 18 here, and then they just ended off the third quarter gracefully. Although the Warriors would try to chip away in the fourth, it wasn't enough. The Timberwolves were just everywhere defensively. And that ultimately allowed the Timberwolves to take it pretty easily. They weren't necessarily going to let up, but the Warriors obviously seemed to not have enough in the tank to truly compete anymore. And thus, by the end of it, after Kevin Knox would hit a free throw randomly, the Timberwolves would win the game 2 and tie it up heading over to San Francisco, 117-93. Again, a better game from them overall. Warriors also, again, yes, Anthony Edwards played pretty well, especially compared to last game. 20 points, 9 rebounds, and 5 assists with 3 steals and a block for him on 6 of 13 shooting. At the same time, for a while there, they were doing things well against Anthony Edwards in terms of being able to guard him for the early portion of the game. At least prior to his initial injury, because yes, he did go down with an ankle injury. At nearly the halfway mark of the second quarter, he was taken out for a little bit because it was a sprain, but eventually he would be able to play again. So to soldier through that and lead his team to victory, you have to give him tremendous credit for that. Where Anthony Edwards was absent, though, for that time, you had the shooters step up. I mean, Julius Randle was able to play a tremendous amount of bully ball and get himself 24 points, 7 rebounds, and 11 assists on 10 of 17 shooting. The only drawback to that, he's going to think that he's a point guard. I mean, 11 assists? He's going to be on cloud 9 with that shit. But that's neither here nor there. Jaden McDaniels also had 16 points on 7 of 10 shooting. And then Nickeil Alexander-Walker, for a player who had been on a pretty horrible stretch when it came to overall shooting, had 20 points and 3 assists on 7 of 13 shooting with 4 threes himself. Naz Reid also had 11, and Dante DiVincenzo also had 9. Michael Conley Jr. had 6 points. And though he played just 17 minutes, he actually provided some good defense. Shockingly enough. Which certainly changed around the game plan for the Warriors. As for them, Jimmy Butler III had 17.7 rebounds and 4 assists on 6 of 13 shooting. Definitely would have liked to see a little more from him in a game that would not have Stephen Curry, especially since for at least the next couple, the same thing is going to be the case. So that's going to have to ramp up a little bit. Brandon Pajemski had 11 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists on 4 of 9 shooting. Buddy Hield had 15 points on 15 points on 5 of 14 shooting with 4 threes. Trace Jackson-Davis also had 15 points on perfect shooting with 6 rebounds. And Draymond Green had just 9 points. Jonathan Kuminga off the bench had 18 points and 5 rebounds on 8 of 11 shooting, which is pretty solid overall. Again, the one thing that continues to sink the Warriors in this game, just an excessive amount of turnovers, as I stated, again, in bunches too. I mean, that run to open up the third quarter, there was a prime opportunity to make a full comeback there, and it isn't realized because of just errant decision making. And that ultimately ended up hurting tremendously in this game. The Timberwolves were also able to do a great job of crashing the glass, of course, especially when the game actually mattered. Even with the Warriors finishing with more overall rebounding. You have to account for garbage time here. Obviously, with Gobert being out there, you know that's what he's going to do and probably should do. Although, more often than not, he fails to live up to the job. But that's neither here nor there. Again, I think that the Warriors will be okay. You know, obviously, they're going to have to figure it out without Stephen Curry on the offensive side. But a large reason why they struggled, again, does come to the fact that there were unforced errors here. If you can learn from that and shake back, you're going to be just fine on that front. Also, defensively, again, just continue to make it harder for Anthony Edwards to contribute and truly impose his will. Because again, for a great portion in the game, they did exactly that. And you're forcing him to get involved in other ways. You will live with that. But you've just got to stay attracted to shooters. Because again, I mean, even if they were going to do better, for them to shoot 16 of 37 from deep, after at least since game 1, they were on a horrific stretch in terms of shooting from 3. This was their most efficient 3-point game in a while in the postseason. And that's because, again, at some points, you're getting so focused on guarding Anthony Edwards, but you're failing to account for other players out there. Like, there was a sequence immediately following that run in the third quarter, I think, where Naz Reid just gets an open look, and I think Jimmy Butler III was supposed to be out there. He got trapped engaging with a ball handler in the paint instead of going out to contest a shot, and it led to an easy make for a player in Naz Reid who was very capable of hitting something like that. But, you know, there are good takeaways from both squads. But hey, Game 3 is going to be where it's at. But that'll do it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.